Okay? So this is the archaeoacoustic study that was carried out in a circle, well, it's a megalithic complex, not quite a circle, in Poggio Rota, which is in Tuscany, in Italy. And it's on the west, close to the west coast in the north of Italy. The name Poggio Rota means round knoll, which is derived from the location. It's situated on the bend of the river Fiora. It was discovered by this gentleman. His name is Giovanni Fio. He is an Italian researcher and a specialist in intrusion civilization, and he discovered it in 2004. So studies, after it was discovered, archaeologists from the University of Milan carried out studies and research on it, and they assumed that the megaliths were built towards the middle of the 3rd millennium BC by the Rinaldone civilization between 4000 and 2000 BC. This Rinaldo civilization was, they existed before, they were a pre-Etruscan civilization, and some believe they passed on their knowledge of sound to the Etruscans. What's interesting, in Italy, I think as Paolo Gilberto mentioned yesterday, there's not many examples of megaliths left because a lot were destroyed by the church. So this is maybe one of only 2 examples in Italy of complex megalithic sites, and this one is in the best condition. We've had, there have been some archaeoastronomy studies done by a gentleman called Gaspani, and he believes the observation that the complex was built for the observation of the sun and the stars. You can see the sun's rays throughout the seasons, and what's interesting about this complex, it's not aligned to the north, it's aligned to the solstices, the equinoxes. So I will show you what the sunset looks in a moment, but during the summer solstice, the sun rests on this knoll here, which seems to be carved out. And in the winter solstice, the reflection of the sun sits resting on this rock, which has also been carved out. And here we can see there's the sun. This is the winter solstice. There is the sun, and some reflection here. And this is the summer solstice. And you can see that the sun is resting on the central monolith before it sets on a depression on the horizon. Also during the autumnal equinox, due to the roundness at the base of some of the monoliths, it was possible to know when the sun was going to set about an hour before it was due to set, due to the way the light struck the ground. And that's the spring equinox, how the sun's rays come through those stones there. This complex was created out of tuff. Now, there is some debate whether it was created out of one piece of tufaceous rock or there were multiple pieces. And given that it was tough, it's quite soft. It's debatable whether these are natural or carved. No one can be sure. So now the main interest of our group was to see if there is a relationship between any mechanical vibrations or other phenomena and the brain. Because previous research we conducted, unlike the Cook study, we found that the brain could be influenced by a broader range of frequencies, so between 80 and 120 hertz. It wasn't just about 110 hertz. So yeah, up until this point it's only been considered an astronomical observatory. So the equipment we used, the digital recording equipment, we have a portable digital recorder with the microphones, Sennheiser microphones, the cables, and then we use the spectrum analyzer just to detect any electromagnetic phenomena. And then the sources that we were looking at, we looked at voices, chanting in different locations. There was this round frame drum that was used, made not of natural skin, but what's the word? It's not natural, so it doesn't absorb the moisture. So the membrane is artificial, so it gives a consistent sound. And then the other thing we looked at were the natural vibrations, which would have been originating from the Earth. And these two programs, Audacity and RX 4.1, these were the programs that were used to analyse the sounds and the frequencies. And the results were, with the natural phenomenon, there wasn't really anything that was particularly loud. It was in a range, it's in a broad range between 6 to 8 hertz to 50 hertz, but quite a low volume. But even having said that, when it's compared to outside the megalithic complex, there wasn't any sounds present there, so there was something in the megalith that wasn't present outside. And with the voice, nothing really of significance. So the most interesting results came with the use of the frame drum. And here, this is, we're comparing the centre, the results from the centre of the complex with the results outside the complex. So here we have 91 hertz, the peak 91 hertz, and it's a very high volume, 0 dB, whereas outside the complex we're talking about a much lower volume, 12 dB at 55 hertz. So what that means is that the complex is amplifying and giving more energy into the drum. The other interesting thing about 91 hertz, it's not very commonly found. We haven't sort of come across it in other sites, so that's also quite unique. And then this is a more detailed analysis in the RX software, which our sound engineer Heikki Savolainen did. And we're comparing again inside the complex and outside the complex. And we can see this area would correspond to the early 90 hertz frequencies. So the sound is very much concentrated when compared to outside, where the frequencies are more widely distributed. You haven't got the same concentration. We've also done a comparison looking at the frequencies in a more detailed way. So this white band shows the frequencies at 91 Hertz inside the megalith. The yellow is outside. And there is no sound. Is there a sound on this file? Okay. We're just going to hear the difference between the two sound files.
One inside. So it's possible to hear the difference of frequency outside in the free air and inside the Megalithic complex. So setting together one over the other, you can hear perfectly the difference. The drum outside is lower frequency. Inside is a higher frequency, 91 Hz, in the range of 80 and 120 Hz. This is only outside. Okay, I go here for the conclusion. When we tested all, but when it has to work, it doesn't work.
So, one of the areas where we found a resonance that most closely matched the 91 Hertz we found in the Poggio Rota complex was in Cividale, the Friuli Hypogean, which is in the northeast of Italy. And one of the chambers there was resonating at 94 Hertz. There was another interesting phenomenon that we discovered at the site. It's very radioactive at very high levels, which are dangerous for human health, for our health, so that's not very good to be in that site for too long. Also, outside the stone circle they were lower, but still at dangerous levels. And that could explain why there are no sort of settlements or houses anywhere in the area. We did find similar radiation differences between inside a megalith and outside. So this is a megalith in Portugal close to Castelo de Belli, and when we measured the radiation levels inside and outside, that's inside the dolmen, that's outside the dolmen, so there was a difference. So it seems that certainly in the case of this dolmen, it was concentrating the radiation and gas because there's less air circulating, and one could argue that would be the case in Poggio Rota as well, that within the megalith structure less air is circulating, so the radon gas was also concentrated. And in the dolmen in Portugal we also found that there were high levels of natural sound vibrations when compared to outside. So the radon gas was concentrated, and so were the natural vibrations. So, essentially, what we're looking at is a relationship really between the people that built this complex and how they used it. So we would sort of, this archaeoacoustic analysis provides some evidence just to support the idea that these blocks were reshaped. Their reshaping was not really accidental, but it was to create some effect. Probably not with the radon gas, but more with the acoustics. And there were certainly a lot of similarities in the 91 Hertz, 94 Hertz. There were similarities in those frequencies, and we know that 91 Hertz certainly affects how we, as consciousness, from the studies that we've done in Cividale, the Fuli, in the Hypergeum there. And we know that also in the laboratory we've tested these range of frequencies between 80 and 120 Hertz, so we know that 91 and 94 Hertz is within that range, so it will have some effect. So whether the builders of Poggio Rota were deliberately, intentionally trying to hit this, it's kind of leaning more to that argument. For some ritualistic purpose or ceremonial purpose. And the other interesting thing is that this technology that's used throughout the Mediterranean basin, it looks like it has a common heritage and amongst different civilizations that's been passed on. That's the other thing I forgot to mention, that Poggio Rota and the Fuli Hypergeum were built around the same time. And that's it. So that's a simple conclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize for the misunderstanding.
Okay, no problem.